Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your relationship without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm sharing about how to save your marriage when he won't even try. My guest, Christy, was married to a jerk who was always mean to her. Everything she did annoyed him, and he didn't respect her. After 29 years of marriage, he fell in love with another woman, quit his job, and moved to be with her. Christy was devastated when they got divorced. But today, she's wearing a sparkly diamond engagement ring on her finger because her ex-husband proposed to her and they just remarried. She's going to tell us how she attracted him back and how she now has the marriage of her dreams. And then I'll be giving out the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award, which is a solution you hear proposed a lot, but many women tell me they regret following it. All that is coming up, but first let's talk a little bit about how to save your marriage when he won't even try. One of the most painful things I hear from a woman struggling in her marriage is hopelessness about her husband being unwilling to work on the relationship. She'll tell me he won't go to counseling, he won't even read a single book. He says, "We're not together," or "It's over." He's already with the other woman and building a life with her. And she's already exhausted from all the work she's done on the relationship, and it's apparent he just doesn't care at all. And he's the one who has the anger problem, or who didn't make any effort to spend time with the family, or who wanted to separate. He's the one who left or filed for divorce. So the idea that she can save the marriage herself seems far-fetched, to say the least, which is understandable. The good news is that I've never seen a woman fail who has truly practiced the 6 intimacy skills, even if it seems like it's too late. And the thing that I see over and over again in these amazing, heroic women who commit to saving their families when the odds look insurmountable is that they've cultivated a particular skill and employed it in their marriages. I'm going to tell you what that is, but before I do, I want to say that what we know is tempting for just about every mere mortal woman in that heartbreaking situation is to ask your husband to change. Even if it's to tell him to come back home or start showing up for the relationship. Unfortunately, that's still just a thinly veiled criticism, and nobody much enjoys that or finds it appealing. That's just going to push him away further. And okay, maybe he should do those things that you're wanting him to do. But unfortunately, broadcasting that you know what he should do is probably not much different than what you were doing when your marriage fell apart. And therefore, it isn't going to help you save your marriage. So it can make you feel more discouraged. And that is not empowering. Empowerment wears a disguise. What's underneath is accountability, which is a superpower. It's a theme I hear again and again when I talk to women who have not just saved their marriages, but made them worth saving again. One student told me that her husband was lying to her and keeping secrets. And she realized that she had been unsafe for him to share things with because she reacted so strongly when he did. So she apologized for not making it safe for him, leaving his lies and secrets completely out of it. And her big, strong man cried. And so did she. It was the beginning of restoring the emotional safety between them. Another student said that she told her husband, "I want to thank you for moving out because it made me look at how I was behaving with you, and I didn't like how critical and disrespectful I had become. You didn't deserve that, and that's not the woman I want to be." And do you know, he decided to stick around and talk to her for hours when he had been avoiding her for months. Another student was devastated about her husband's affair, and it felt justified and right to be upset. But she also saw something else, that she had been judgmental and harsh with him. She said, "I apologize for judging you and not trusting you to be the great man I know you are." Her husband ended things with the other woman quickly and turned his full, undivided attention to her again. All of these students amaze me. I mean, can you imagine climbing over the huge pile of hurt and resentment that you would feel in any of those situations in order to look at your own side of the street and then get out the broom and start sweeping it? I'm always impressed when I hear about a woman doing that because I know how much courage and humility it takes to own my contribution to the mess I'm in. Some women will never find that courage, and I think the women who do deserve trophies. Choosing accountability, it pays big dividends when it comes to saving your marriage. It brings out his best too. In other words, when you open your eyes wide to the things you did and said that you're not proud of and take responsibility for them, he responds to you so much better. And that's why the way to work on a relationship is really to work on myself. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Christy, was married to a jerk who was always mean to her. Everything she did annoyed him, and he didn't respect her. After 29 years of marriage, he fell in love with another woman, quit his job, and moved to be with the other woman. Christy was devastated when they got divorced. But today, she's wearing a sparkly diamond engagement, now marriage ring, wedding ring, on her ring finger, because her ex-husband proposed to her and they just remarried. She's going to tell us how she attracted him back and how she created the marriage of her dreams. Christy, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
So let's go back to the beginning. What were things like in the bad old days of your marriage?
Well, I didn't think they were that bad. And when I was preparing for this interview, I got out my journal, and it goes back like 10 years. And it made me realize how bad things were. There was a common theme. He was a jerk. He was mean. He complained that I annoyed him. I didn't feel respected. He yelled a lot. And I actually found a list of things that he complained about me. He said I was constantly on his ass. I couldn't do anything right. I would sit around thinking about how I could change him. I would say stupid things. I would throw him under the bus. I acted like his mother. He would have to cower to my demands. He would like being nice to me. I would martyr myself. I would overreact. I would start fights so I wouldn't have to have sex with him. He called me nosy. And I thought talking about these things would help, and it never did. We just yelled at each other a lot. We weren't happy. I didn't realize how bad it was until I went back and looked at my journal. I searched for different things to help our marriage. I read different self-help books. I looked on the internet. I thought if he would just be nicer to me, everything would be better.
He would stop saying all these hurtful things.
Yeah, I just thought it was him. He was just mean, and if he was nicer, then everything would be fine.
Totally identify with that. So, and did you think like, okay, I just married the wrong guy? Or you just kind of felt like you could show him how to be more gentle and civilized, and then that would fix
I just thought if he was nice to me, then everything would be fine. And I didn't realize until I learned the skills and started with the private coaching that a lot of the issues were mine. So, still going back to the bad old days, part of my story is that I had breast cancer. My husband is a wonderful man and he took amazing care of me, but it took a toll on our marriage. I had a mastectomy and then it got reconstruction. But like I said, he took amazing care of me, but took a toll on our marriage. It took a toll on our intimacy. I remember feeling pressured to going back to the same kind of intimacy we had before in our marriage. And I just wasn't feeling it. It was all the cancer and the chemo and recovering from all that. It took time for me to return to normal. And I could feel like him like becoming distant. And I didn't know how to change things. I caught him sexting with another woman. I actually left for a week, and he begged me to come back and told me he loved me, but he also admitted to seeking out an affair. And I felt so betrayed. It was horrible. He told me he didn't feel like he still loved me. Yeah. We went to marriage counseling, and it just felt like he was checked out of the marriage already. Like he was going, but he wasn't really trying. I felt like my life was upside down. I had no purpose. I felt just broken. I didn't know what was happening to us, and I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel wanted, and I knew that he felt the same way.
So was there a particular I mean, these are devastating blows you're describing, the sexting and then him admitting to seeking an affair and not really trying in marriage counseling. I mean, was there a moment when you thought, okay, like this is, I
then discovered that he was having an affair. And I looked on his phone and I saw that they had been having an emotional affair for months. And then while I was out of town, I found out that I caught him in some lies, and it led to finding out that he was cheating. It was devastating. I felt like my heart was broken in a million pieces. I didn't know what to do, and
like worst day of your life ever.
Yeah, he told me everything, and then he felt like he did feel like this because he told me he felt like I could never forgive him for what he did. He knew that, I felt so betrayed and so brokenhearted, and he just thought there's no going back. And I didn't know how to move forward. And he admitted to me that he loved the other woman, and he ended up quitting his job and moving to another city to be with her. And
wow.
Yeah. He told me he loved her, and yeah, it was super hard.
Awful, Christy. It sounds devastating, heartbreaking.
But the whole time this was happening, he still cared about me, and he kept coming back and forth, and I mean a lot. There was one time where we went away for our 29th wedding anniversary, and I had so much net, which is needless emotional turmoil, like I had learned from you in your book and the coaching, that I couldn't let go of all those emotions. And I had so many doubts and insecurities about our relationship that I, wanted to look at his phone. And when we were coming back from our anniversary vacation in Palm Springs, I caught him texting her. And so I gave him an ultimatum, and I dropped him off at the nearest rental car place and told him go. And he did. I had pushed him right over there.
But while you were making this ultimatum, though, what what were you hoping he was going to say in response to you? And what was the ultimatum?
I wanted him to stop talking to her. I wanted him to choose me. And he didn't think I could forgive him. And he, had been unhappy for a long time. And so all these things led to him going to her. And the next day he called me. He said, I made the biggest mistake of my life. And I said, yes, you have.
Yeah, you're mad. You're hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. He came back and forth a lot. And then a couple months later, he filed for divorce. And our divorce, and there was nothing I could do about it. He filed in Nevada, and it was either agreed to it or I mean, it was going to happen whether I liked it or not. And so we got divorced, and
so. I mean, he's got this other woman. He's you dropped him off at the rental car place. He took off, but then you get divorce papers. I mean, that's like a whole other layer of the pain.
Yeah, and the whole time he's coming back and forth, and he actually took me to her house once to get all of his stuff. He said, I want to come back to you. And of course, every time I took him back because that's what I wanted in my heart. I just wanted him back. Yes. But then I didn't know how to act when he got back. I didn't know how to trust him again. And, but then when we got divorced, I was so depressed and I lost 30 pounds and I didn't know how to be happy with him or without him. And so I started dating and I thought, I'm tired of being sad and angry. But then I realized now that I was just looking for someone else to make me happy again. And that didn't work either. And still he kept coming back. I even signed up for coaching on one of his times he came back and with your program. But then I caught him in some lies again. And so after like 2 coaching sessions, I quit because I thought, I have no marriage. Every time he left, I just was totally devastated. And I thought, this is it. He's never coming back. And then he comes back. It was a roller coaster ride, an absolute roller coaster ride.
And so you were thinking, well, this is a waste of time. I don't need coaching because this is so hopeless.
Yeah, my marriage is so hopeless.
As well.
It's never,
yeah.
Yep.
Save the money. Like, this is ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah. I thought there was no hope whatsoever that he was ever going to come back, stay back, and that we would ever be married again. So
divorce papers, another woman. I mean, it's
the writing's on the wall. Get over it.
It's stacked against you, right? Yeah, the illusion is really big here that you are not going to get your marriage back.
Yeah.
So what in the world happened?
So this last September, he came back again, and I took him back again, and I had such uncontrollable, needless emotional turmoil that I could barely cope. I wanted to look at his phone and I wanted to control him and who he talked to. I didn't want him talking to her. And I gave him ultimatums again. And I could feel him being on the fence. And I could feel me pushing him over to the other side. And I thought, I have a chance. He's come back and he had been back for a few months. He came back in September and it was March that I signed up for coaching because the main reason that I signed up for coaching was because I wanted to feel cherished and I didn't want any more needless emotional turmoil. I didn't want any more net because it was horrible. I was just so emotional all the time. It was horrible.
It's draining, right? It's exhausting. And even though you didn't want to have it, you didn't know how to not have it. right?
Right. And looking at his phone, shopping for nets.
So
So
it felt kind of out of your control to have this needless emotional turmoil.
yes. And I just knew I needed help. I needed help. And so I signed up again, thank goodness. And I got my old coach back, Sue, and I started learning about self-care. And I learned how to love myself and to be happy without anybody else. I learned how to be a GOFL, a goddess of fun and light, and that internal happiness magnetized him to me.
Wow. How did you know? How did you know he was magnetized?
Well, I did a lot of different things. I started just checking in with myself every day and being more self-aware of my moods. And when I felt, per my instructions, I was to write down, many self-care items, and make sure I do at least 3 a day. And another thing I did was, I stopped complaining. I read in your book that husbands can feel like they can't ever make their wife happy. And I think that was me. And so I stopped complaining. And when he would ask me about work, instead of saying something negative like I would normally do, I would say something positive about work. And that made him want to talk to me more because I wasn't complaining all the time.
Powerful. Yeah.
Yes. Another thing I learned from your book and your website and your podcast, another big powerful thing was deciding to trust him again. Because he actually said to me, you'll never be able to trust me again. And I didn't know how to do that. But you wrote that people, and I replaced people with Dan, that Dan would never be able to trust me again. And I know that that's a lie because I have decided to trust him. And when I finally made that decision to trust him, not look at his phone, and decided to trust him, that was a huge turning point for me. And one of the ways I reinforced that was my coach told me, look for evidence. Look for evidence that he does love you. And every little thing that he would do for me, I would write it down and I would thank him. So he was feeling my gratitude toward him. And so that magnetized him to me as well.
Yeah.
And then I could see on paper, physical evidence, how he was loving me. And so my mind started to change and I was having less net. I was appreciating him and magnetizing him to me and making myself happy. All of these things started working.
Wow.
And then he started talking to me.
Yeah.
I was becoming his safe place. I also, some of the other skills I learned was duct tape. I hear you, whatever you think. But duct tape was super big for me. It still is. Because before I would say something that I shouldn't have said, and I have an example of that actually. I wrote down a little story.
Oh yeah.
And now I just don't say anything. And now the intimacy in my marriage isn't sacrificed. For instance, when we were in the car one day and coming back from out of town, so we were in the car for a couple hours, and I thought he was texting and driving. And before I would say something, I would get mad and I would nag him not to text. But I decided to apply the duct tape. And I was so glad I didn't say anything, because what he was doing on his phone was he was looking for the song from our wedding, the
Oh,
song that we danced to, and he wanted to play it for me.
oh my
And
God.
if I would have said something and I would have started nagging, it would have totally ruined that moment. And so things like that started happening, where I started realizing, oh my God, these skills are totally working. And and so it's just been amazing.
It sounds amazing.
I've learned so much.
So, so walk us through. There's a point where you were totally divorced.
Yeah.
And obviously he was back, and now you're using the skills and you're magnetizing him, and he's finding songs from your wedding to play in the car, which is super sweet and romantic. And how did you get back to where you are now? Like you're married to him again. So how did that happen?
So we were actually divorced for 2 years. And the first year he was coming back and forth, and I was pushing him away and not knowing how to handle it. And now with the skills, for the last 6 months, I have my dream relationship. So we we started talking about getting married again, and that's what I really, really wanted. It's one of my true desires, that I have been saying I want to be married again. And he listens now to me. I feel like he listens to me, on everything. And he wants to talk to me. He wants to be around me. He even, um, we've had some decisions lately with his job and my job and teleworking, that he was having to spend time away from me. And we decided that life is short, and he didn't want to spend time apart. And so we made some decisions so that we would be together all the time. And I, I know it's like a dream come true. Before I
Amazing.
annoyed him, and now he wants to spend time with me. And he's making life decisions to prove to me that that's what he wants. And so more and more, we would talk about getting married. And so he went and bought me a new wedding ring, and he presented it to me, or he asked me to marry him again, a few weeks ago.
Can I see?
And
I want to see
then
your sparkly ring again. I saw. Okay, so this beautiful. That is a heck of a rock you got there.
yes, and then I told him of course, I said yes, and then I told him, I would love to have a romantic wedding, and he thought Tahoe would be a good idea. But then we went into Las Vegas to get a marriage certificate, and everything was right there, and we just decided to go for it, and now we're married again. And all
Congratulations.
my dreams are coming true.
Wow. Amazing story. I think for anybody listening, I think who might feel like she's given up hope, right? Like he's filed the divorce, or he wants the divorce, or there's the other woman, he already moved out. Like it's over. How did you find the strength and the courage to continue to like you kept your faith somehow? How did you do that?
So when I signed up for the second time this last March, I I knew I was doing things wrong. I knew what I was doing wasn't working, and I didn't want to have net anymore. And so I dove into the skills. I was the perfect student. I did everything my coach told me to. I listened to your podcast, and I got onto the private Facebook group, and listened to the other women and listened to the coaches. And I tried to do everything that they told me to do, because I knew what I was doing wasn't working. And then I started to see the evidence. Things started to work. And that just made me more motivated to keep doing the skills. Now, when We talk about bait. Now, when he's throwing out some bait, I swim right by it. But I go the next step, and because before he would always complain, I would get my feelings hurt. And now I'm able to just swim by that bait, not get my feelings hurt, but then I take it to the next level and I try and think, what is his heart message? Why is he throwing out bait? What is wrong with him that he's having a hard time and being grumpy, maybe? And what is his heart message? So I just everything's working so well. And I can't believe how magical these skills are.
Wow.
You're a genius.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You sound like you have superpowers. Like this is
I feel like I do.
Yes, this is such a different experience. So we talked about in the beginning that he was a jerk. He was always mean, but it doesn't even sound like the same guy you're describing. No.
Now we never yell at each other anymore.
Wow. Wow.
Another example is when he first came back, our son actually, he didn't think it was a good idea. He told me, not a good idea. This is our son. And now he feels totally different because he sees the skills working and he sees how happy we are. We're not arguing anymore. And now he's all for it.
Oh my gosh. You won him over.
Well, it's just, there's proof that we're happy and he wants to be around that. And before he didn't want to be around what we had. And now he does. And that makes me happy that we're all happy family again.
It's a happy family. That is really something worthwhile. Is it? Your son is a grown man, I'm assuming.
Oh yes, he's 24.
He's 24. Okay, so he's probably maybe launched into the world already, but I bet that's had an impact on him in some ways. That his parents are together and happy.
Yes, one of the girls in the group posted on Facebook the other day something that they were grateful for that they didn't have when they were a child that they have now. And someone said a pool or a fancy car. And I wanted to say parents that don't fight.
You're your own parents that don't fight now.
Yep.
And you're able to give that to your son.
Yep.
Which is quite a blessing because the three of you will always be connected, and this is a beautiful way to spend your time together. Is having the harmony and even romance. It sounds like where he's playing your songs from your wedding.
Oh yeah, he just planned for a week-long trip to Palm Springs in a couple weeks too.
Love that. Amazing. Well, your story is nothing short of a miracle. But it sounds like it's a miracle that maybe other women could have as well. Is that what's your perspective on that?
I think these skills can work for everybody in all relationships, especially marriages. Yeah, I'm testament to never give up. You can have the relationship of your dreams because I'm having it, even though I was divorced.
Wow.
Now I'm married again.
Wow, you had the decks totally stacked against you. I've heard from so many women who say it's hopeless for me, but you didn't say that. You, so I do admire your commitment so much. What would you say to Christy? Like you're reading your old journal from 10 years ago. What would you say to her that you know now that you didn't know?
I think anybody who comes across these skills, they should trust them because they work. And that's what I would tell myself, especially having signed up and quit after one time, that these skills work. Just trust, experiment with some little thing, duct tape, or I hear you, or whatever you think, or saying positive things instead of negative things. self-care, just experiment and trust these skills because they work. That would be my message.
And I love that. And it sounds like, when you tried coaching the first time, like it really wasn't the right time for you. Like you weren't ready yet, or it wasn't time yet. But it probably took some courage to get back on the horse after you had already quit. In some ways that can be harder. So,
well, and I think that if I would have stuck to it, I think things could have turned out a lot differently. And I think if I would have had the skills before I got divorced, I think I could have made them work. But it happened this way, and I'm really happy. But I do truly believe that if I would have applied these intimacy skills before my divorce, I think I could have stopped it. I really do.
You sound a little bit like one of the things I love to say from Maya Angelou is, I wouldn't take nothing from my journey now. Mm-hmm. You sound like that too. Like you got so much out of it. It's, certainly for your marriage, but I think I also hear you having grown as a person, like you went on a self-improvement program. Yeah.
I realized that I wasn't happy with myself, and I was always looking to my husband to make me happy, and he couldn't do it because I couldn't do it. And so how could he do it? And now that's one of my biggest takeaways from your program is learning how to be happy with myself and self-care.
Yeah, quite a great thing to know how to do to make yourself happy. So what's your tip, or what's your invitation to a woman who is feeling heartbroken, devastated? He doesn't love her. He loves the other woman. He's moved out. He's pushing for divorce. He's filing for divorce. And she's feeling quite hopeless. What do you suggest? Where should she start to create what you've created?
Well, you've created this network of women that are so supportive. And I loved being a part of that. And I've seen so many examples of women that are on, breakdown status, and their husbands have other women, and they're helping each other get through it with grace and dignity. And yeah, it's very powerful being a part of the group and helping other women get through those times. But it's possible. Definitely possible.
Wow. Yeah, well, you are definitely making a big contribution today to ending world divorce by sharing your amazing story. Why are you willing to talk about this? These are very personal matters.
I want to inspire others that feel hopeless like I felt and are having that needless emotional turmoil and don't feel cherished. The reasons why I came here, they can have it too. It really is possible. I never thought in a million years that I would get my marriage back. And I have it, and it's so much better than it was.
You are just a superstar with the skills. Christy, congratulations on your amazing, wondrous success with your marriage. You're just a beacon of hope for so many women. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award.
It's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And the advice that's making me batty this week was sent in by a student who actually followed this advice and regretted it. So thanks for sending me this great candidate for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award. I love that. I wanted to give you an anonymous shout out of gratitude for that. This student writes that a well-known MD psychiatrist and her counselor during her first marriage of 20 years told her, quote, "If you aren't happy in your marriage, get a divorce." And the student writes, "And so I did." Wrong! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. It's an interesting premise, right? That if you're not happy, that getting divorced will make you happy. Because while it's true that only happy people have happy relationships, it can sure seem like your husband and the problems in your relationship are making you unhappy. But it turns out I'm responsible for my own happiness. I think we've all heard that, but it was so hard for me to understand that years ago. I thought my husband should make me happy, and the poor guy was trying, but I wasn't having it. I was sabotaging myself. I was clinging to my own misery. And the only person who could make me happy was me. And when I finally realized that and started doing fun things every day to be happy, my husband wanted to pile on and delight me even more. In fact, making myself happy, that was the first indispensable step to having a playful, passionate relationship. Just being conscientious about that by planning several things a day for my own frivolous enjoyment gave me the resources to show up so much better in my relationship, which made him respond to me better and just started a chain reaction that has led to being a ridiculously happy wife today. It all started with making myself happy. So for that reason, the advice that if you aren't happy in your marriage, get a divorce is the very worst relationship advice I've heard all week. If you have a candidate for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award, I always love to get those, and you can email it to me at laura@lauradoyle.org. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, we'll talk about the 5 relationship hacks all women should know. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I commented to my husband that we were getting along really well being together all the time for quarantine, and he said, "We better be. That's your job, Laura Doyle."